So, you're thinking about moving to Arizona. You see the pictures of the majestic Grand Canyon, the beautiful red rocks of Sedona, the sprawling, sun-drenched cities. It looks like paradise, right? But like any place, there's a flip side to that postcard image. A side that doesn't make it into the travel brochures. These are the places where the dream of a new life in the desert can quickly turn into a bit of a nightmare. Today, we're exposing the 15 worst towns to live in Arizona. These aren't just my opinions. This list is compiled from data, from statistics on crime, poverty, unemployment, and a general lack of the things that make a town a home. Now before we get into it, I want to be clear. Every town has its good people and its own unique story. But if you're thinking of packing up your life and heading to the Grand Canyon State, these are the places you might want to avoid, or at the very least, be very, very aware of what you're getting into. We're going to be looking at some harsh realities, high crime rates, crippling unemployment, and a feeling of being left behind. It's a side of Arizona that many people never see, and frankly, it's a side that can be pretty unsettling. The purpose of this video isn't to just bash these towns, but to give you a raw, unfiltered look at the challenges they face. Think of this as your due diligence, the kind of research you need to do before making a life-altering decision. We're going to peel back the layers on each of these 15 locations one by one, and uncover the reasons they've earned a spot on this list. So, if you're ready, turn down the lights and let's dive in and see which towns made the list. Our journey into Arizona's less than desirable locales begins in a place that, on the surface, seems like a quirky desert haven. It's a town called Quartzsite. Every winter, its population explodes from just a few thousand to nearly 1 million people, as RVs and snowbirds flock here for the massive gem shows and flea markets. It sounds like a bustling, interesting place. But what happens when the snowbirds leave? When the last RV pulls out and the dust settles, what's left behind is a town that struggles, deeply. The temporary boom masks a year-round reality of hardship. So you're left with a skeleton of a town for most of the year. The amenities you'd expect in a normal community are practically non-existent. Forget about a variety of grocery stores, restaurants, or entertainment options. The infrastructure is built for a temporary city, not a permanent one. This lack of basic services creates a difficult environment for the year-round residents. Imagine living in a place where the nearest decent hospital or shopping center is a long, hot drive away. It's a life of isolation, not by choice but by circumstance. And with that isolation comes a more sinister problem. When a town is this transient and lacks a stable community foundation, crime often finds a way to take root. Quartzsite has a crime rate that is shockingly high for a town of its size. We're talking about property crime rates that are well above the national average. People who live there year-round speak of a constant worry, a need to be on guard. It's one thing to visit for a weekend gem show, but it's another thing entirely to try and build a life in a place where your sense of security is constantly being challenged. The final piece of the puzzle for Quartzsite is the economy, or rather, the lack of one. Outside of the seasonal tourism boom, there are very few jobs. The unemployment rate is a persistent issue, and the jobs that are available are often low-wage and temporary. This creates a cycle of poverty that is difficult to escape. For these reasons, the extreme lack of amenities, the unsettlingly high crime rate, and the barren job market, Quartzsite, Arizona, sadly earns its spot as the first town on our list to avoid. Next, we travel to a place that is geographically tiny but has problems that are immense. It's a 1 square mile city completely surrounded by the much larger city of Tucson. This is South Tucson. Being an independent municipality sounds like it could be a good thing, a way to maintain a unique identity. But in the case of South Tucson, it has created a situation where the town is an island, cut off from the resources and economic growth of its much larger neighbor. It's trapped, both literally and figuratively. The most glaring issue when you look at South Tucson is the crime. The statistics are genuinely alarming. For a city of only about 5,000 people, it consistently reports crime rates, both violent and property-related, that are many times higher than the national average. In fact, your chances of becoming a victim of a crime here are startlingly high. This isn't just numbers on a page, it's the daily reality for the people who live there. It creates a pervasive atmosphere of fear and instability, where walking down the street after dark is something you have to think twice about, a luxury many of us take for granted. This high crime rate is directly linked to the deep-seated economic challenges that plague the city. Poverty is rampant in South Tucson. The median household income is significantly lower than the rest of the state, and a large percentage of the population lives below the poverty line. With poverty comes desperation, and with desperation, unfortunately, comes crime. The lack of economic opportunity is a heavy anchor, dragging the community down. There are few businesses, few jobs, and little hope for upward mobility for many of its residents. So why doesn't the larger, more prosperous city of Tucson just absorb it and help fix these problems? It's complicated. South Tucson fiercely guards its independence, but that independence comes at a steep price. The city struggles to fund its own police force, its own schools, and its own public services. The result is underfunded and overwhelmed systems that can't adequately address the community's needs. It's a tragic cycle. Poverty fuels crime, crime deters investment, and the lack of investment deepens the poverty. For these reasons, the small city of South Tucson carries a heavy burden, earning it a spot on our list. Halfway between Phoenix and Tucson, right along the busy I-10 corridor, you'll find our next town, Eloy. From the freeway, it might not look like much more than a gas station and a place to stretch your legs. But for the people who call it home, Eloy represents a profound economic struggle. The town's identity is largely tied to two things: agriculture and corrections. It's home to several large private prisons, which are the main employers in the area. This reliance on the prison industry creates a strange and often bleak economic landscape. The most significant problem facing Eloy is unemployment. While the prisons do provide jobs, they don't provide enough for everyone, and the opportunities outside of the correctional facilities are incredibly scarce. The unemployment rate here is consistently and stubbornly high, often double or even triple the national average. This lack of work creates a sense of hopelessness that permeates the town. Young people who grow up here see very little future for themselves, and many are forced to leave to find opportunities elsewhere, hollowing out the community. This economic despair contributes to a host of other social issues. The school systems are underfunded, and educational outcomes are poor, which only perpetuates the cycle of poverty. When you have a generation of kids growing up with limited educational prospects and even more limited job prospects, it's a recipe for trouble. The town also struggles with crime, which, while not as severe as some other places on our list, is still a significant concern for residents and is often tied to the widespread poverty and lack of opportunity. So, while Eloy is known to some as a major skydiving hub, that thrill-seeking tourism does little to lift the local economy in a meaningful way. It's a stark contrast. People jumping out of planes for fun, while on the ground, many residents feel like they are in a free fall with no parachute. The town is stuck at a crossroads, both literally on the interstate and figuratively in its development. With its crippling unemployment and a severe lack of diverse economic opportunities, Eloy is a place where dreams seem to stall out, making it a town many would want to avoid. Our next stop takes us to the absolute southwestern corner of Arizona, right on the border with Mexico. This is the city of San Luis. On the surface, it's a bustling community, deeply intertwined with its sister city, San Luis Rio Colorado in Mexico. The cultural exchange is constant, and the streets are often filled with activity. But underneath this vibrant surface lies a town grappling with the immense pressures and unique challenges that come with being a major border crossing. These are not problems of its own making, but they define life here. San Luis is one of the fastest growing cities in Arizona, but this growth is not being met with adequate resources. The infrastructure is straining under the pressure. This means crowded schools, overwhelmed healthcare facilities, and a constant struggle to provide basic services to a rapidly expanding population. Imagine living in a town where a doctor's appointment is nearly impossible to get, or where your children are in classrooms packed to the brim. This isn't a failure of the people, but a failure of the system to keep up. Economically, San Luis faces a paradox. Despite the constant cross-border traffic and commerce, the city itself struggles with high poverty rates. The median household income is among the lowest in the entire state. Many of the jobs are tied to agriculture, which is seasonal and low wage. This creates a large population of the working poor, people who have jobs but still can't make ends meet. The dream of American prosperity feels very distant for many families living in San Luis, who are working hard but falling further behind. Then there are the issues directly related to its location on the border. While the city itself works hard to maintain safety, it's impossible to ignore the influence of the international border. The flow of people and goods, both legal and illegal, puts a tremendous strain on local law enforcement and community resources. This creates a unique tension and a set of public safety concerns that most other towns simply do not have to deal with. For all these reasons, the overwhelmed infrastructure, the pervasive poverty, and the unique pressures of a border location, San Luis is a challenging place to build a stable life. We travel east along the border to another historic town, Douglas. Like San Luis, it shares a border with Mexico, and like so many towns in Arizona, it has a history rooted in a boom-and-bust economy. Douglas was once a thriving, copper-smelting town. The grand old architecture, like the Gadsden Hotel, hints at a prosperous past, a time when money flowed and the future seemed bright. But that was a long time ago. The smelter closed down in the 1980s, and the town has been in a state of economic decline ever since. When the main economic engine of a town shuts down, the effects are devastating and long-lasting. Douglas has never truly recovered. This has resulted in high unemployment and a pervasive sense of poverty. Walking through parts of the town, you can see the decay. Boarded-up storefronts line the main streets, and many of the beautiful historic buildings are falling into disrepair. It's like seeing a ghost of what the town used to be, a constant reminder of a prosperity that has vanished. This economic depression has, predictably, led to a significant problem with crime. Douglas has a crime rate that is considerably higher than the state average. Both property crime and violent crime are serious concerns for the residents who have remained. The feeling of decline can create an environment where crime can flourish, as opportunities dwindle and desperation grows. This, combined with the complexities of being a border town, puts a heavy strain on local law enforcement and makes residents feel unsafe in their own community. So, while Douglas has a rich history and some stunning old buildings, it's a town living in the shadow of its past. The lack of jobs, the high poverty rate, and the persistent crime make it a difficult place to recommend for anyone looking for a fresh start. It serves as a stark warning of what can happen when a town's entire identity is tied to a single industry, and that industry disappears. The promise of the past has been replaced by the harsh reality of the present, landing Douglas firmly on our list. Well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. The famous line from the Eagles song put this small northern Arizona town on the map forever, and Winslow has certainly embraced it. There's a stand-in on the corner park, a statue, and a constant stream of tourists stopping to take a picture with a flatbed Ford. It's a charming piece of Americana. But the nostalgia of a 1970s rock song can't hide the very real, modern-day struggles that the town of Winslow is facing. Once you look past the tourist corner, you find a town that has been hit hard by economic changes. Winslow was once a major hub for the Santa Fe Railway and a key stop on the iconic Route 66. But just like the smelter in Douglas, these economic drivers have faded. The railroad's presence has diminished, and the interstate highway system bypassed Route 66, leaving towns like Winslow to wither. What's left is a community struggling to find its economic footing in the 21st century. This economic struggle is reflected in the town's high unemployment and poverty rates. There are simply not enough good-paying jobs to support the population. This lack of opportunity hits young people especially hard, many of whom leave as soon as they can. The result is a town that feels stagnant, unable to grow or attract new investment. The nostalgia that draws tourists doesn't translate into sustainable economic development for the people who live there year-round. And where there is economic despair, crime often follows. Winslow has a crime rate that is alarmingly high for a town of its size, particularly when it comes to property crime. Residents have to contend with a level of theft and burglary that is far above the norm. It creates a feeling of unease that contradicts the happy-go-lucky image projected by its famous song. The reality for many in Winslow is less about taking it easy and more about struggling to get by, making it another town you should think twice about before moving to. Nestled in the hills of Gila County, about an hour and a half east of Phoenix, is the historic mining town of Globe. Much like Douglas, Globe has a past that is rich with the story of copper. The town is surrounded by massive mining operations that are still active today, and the economy is heavily dependent on the fluctuating price of this single commodity. But this reliance has come at a cost, and Globe finds itself battling some very serious modern-day demons, most notably, a pervasive drug problem. The issue of drug abuse, particularly methamphetamines and opioids, has taken a heavy toll on Globe and the surrounding communities. It's a problem that law enforcement and public health officials openly admit is one of their biggest challenges. This drug crisis fuels a host of other issues. It tears families apart, contributes to homelessness, and is a major driver of the town's high crime rate. When you have a significant portion of the population battling addiction, the entire social fabric of the community begins to fray. This social crisis is compounded by the town's economic instability. While the mines do provide jobs, they are subject to the boom and bust cycles of the global copper market. When prices are down, layoffs happen, and the entire town feels the economic pain. Outside of mining, there are very few other industries, leading to a high unemployment rate, especially for those who don't work in the mines. This lack of economic diversity makes the community incredibly vulnerable. So while the drive into Globe through the mountains is scenic, and the historic downtown has a certain rough-around-the-edges charm, the underlying social and economic problems are impossible to ignore. The combination of a crippling drug epidemic and an unstable one-note economy creates a difficult and often dangerous environment. It's a town where the beauty of the landscape is overshadowed by the human suffering taking place within it. For these heavy reasons, Globe is a place that finds itself on this list of towns to avoid. South of Phoenix, in the flat agricultural plains of Pinal County, sits the town of Coolidge. Named after the 30th U.S. president, the town has a bit of historical significance, being home to the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument. But beyond that ancient history, the town of Coolidge feels like a place where modern development has stalled. It's a community defined more by what it lacks than what it has, particularly when it comes to jobs and things to do. The primary complaint you'll hear about Coolidge is that there's simply nothing there. For a town of its size, the lack of amenities is striking. Entertainment options are virtually non-existent. There are few restaurants, no movie theaters, and very limited shopping. Residents who want a night out or need to do any serious shopping have to drive to the nearby city of Casa Grande or even further to the Phoenix suburbs. This creates a quality of life that many people find unfulfilling and isolating. This lack of amenities is a symptom of a much larger problem, a stagnant economy. Coolidge has struggled for years to attract new businesses and create jobs. The unemployment rate is persistently high, and the jobs that are available are often low-wage positions in agriculture or retail. This economic stagnation means there's no tax base to fund the development of parks, community centers, or other features that make a town a desirable place to live. It's a classic chicken and egg problem. Businesses don't want to come because there's no growth, and there's no growth because businesses don't want to come. So, while Coolidge is relatively affordable compared to the booming Phoenix metro area, that affordability comes with a significant trade-off. You might save money on a mortgage, but you'll be living in a place with limited opportunities for both your career and your social life. It's a quiet town, but for many it's too quiet. It feels like a place left behind by the progress and growth happening just a short drive up the highway. This profound lack of opportunity and amenities is why Coolidge makes our list. We head back to northern Arizona, to a city that bills itself as the heart of historic Route 66. This is Kingman. It's a major crossroads situated between Las Vegas and Phoenix, and it serves as a gateway to the Grand Canyon. It has a larger population than many towns on our list and a more developed infrastructure. However, despite its size and strategic location, Kingman is a city that battles a reputation for high crime and a sense of bleak isolation. For a city of over 30,000 people, Kingman's crime rate is a major red flag. Both violent crime and property crime statistics are consistently well above the national average. This is something that residents talk about frequently. There's a feeling of unease, a sense that you need to be more careful here than in other places. The local news is often filled with stories of burglaries, assaults, and drug-related offenses, which does little to foster a sense of community safety and well-being. Another major issue for Kingman is its isolation. Yes, it's on the way to other, more exciting places, but the city itself can feel very remote. It's a long, lonely desert drive to get to any major metropolitan area. This isolation can be tough, especially for people who are used to having the amenities of a big city nearby. The job market is also limited, heavily reliant on transportation, retail, and healthcare, with few opportunities for high-paying professional careers. This can make it feel like a trap for those seeking upward mobility. So, while Kingman has its Route 66 charm and serves as a necessary stop for travelers, living there is a different proposition. The high crime rate creates a constant sense of insecurity, and the geographic isolation can be mentally taxing. It's a city that seems to be more of a pass-through than a destination. Many people who live there feel stuck, unable to leave but unhappy with the status quo. This combination of significant crime problems and profound isolation earns Kingman its unfortunate place on this list. On the far eastern edge of the sprawling Phoenix metropolitan area, where the suburbs abruptly end and the Superstition Mountains rise dramatically from the desert floor, you'll find Apache Junction. It's a place that has long cultivated a rugged, independent, Wild West image. It attracts retirees and winter visitors who love the proximity to nature and the lower cost of living. But this frontier mentality has a dark side, and Apache Junction, or AJ as it's known, has struggled to shake its reputation for crime and a lack of progress. For decades, Apache Junction has been dogged by high crime rates. While the city has made efforts to combat this, the statistics remain stubbornly high, particularly for property crime. It's known as a place where you don't leave your tools in the back of your truck or your garage door unlocked. This reputation, whether entirely fair or not, has a real impact. It deters new families and businesses from moving in and creates a sense of distrust within the community. The Wild West vibe can sometimes feel a little too real. Another issue is a perceived lack of growth and development. While the cities around it, like Mesa and Gilbert, have boomed with new housing, upscale shopping, and corporate campuses, Apache Junction has largely remained the same. It's dominated by older mobile home parks and strip malls that have seen better days. There's been a resistance to the kind of development that has transformed the rest of the East Valley. While some residents appreciate this, it also means a lack of new jobs, amenities, and opportunities. This resistance to change has left Apache Junction feeling stuck in the past. The school system struggles, and there are few activities or opportunities for young people, which can contribute to delinquency and crime. It's a city of stark contrasts, stunning natural beauty right next to urban decay and social problems. You can be hiking in the breathtaking Superstition Mountains in the morning and dealing with the aftermath of a break-in in the afternoon. This unsettling combination of high crime and stagnant growth places Apache Junction on our list. Moving to the west side of the Phoenix metro area, we come to Avondale. At first glance, it looks like many other sprawling American suburbs. It has new housing developments, big box stores, and it's home to the Phoenix Raceway, which hosts NASCAR events. Avondale has experienced rapid growth over the past couple of decades. But this rapid growth has come with significant growing pains, and the city is now grappling with issues that challenge the suburban ideal, namely crime and struggling schools. Despite its suburban appearance, Avondale has a crime rate that is surprisingly high and a persistent problem. Both violent and property crime rates are higher than in many of its neighboring suburbs, and even higher than the national average. Certain neighborhoods in particular have developed a reputation for being unsafe. This is a major concern for families looking to move to the suburbs for a sense of security. The dream of a safe, quiet street can be shattered by the reality of local crime statistics. Another major issue for families in Avondale is the quality of the public schools. The school ratings in the area are, to put it mildly, not great. Many of the schools are rated below average, struggling with low test scores and limited resources. This is a huge deterrent for families with children, who often end up looking to neighboring cities like Goodyear or Litchfield Park, which have much better regarded school districts. A city cannot thrive in the long term if families do not feel confident in the public education system. So, while Avondale offers more affordable housing than many other parts of the Phoenix area, that affordability comes with serious trade-offs. The city has grown so fast that its social infrastructure, like schools and public safety, hasn't been able to keep up. It's a suburb that hasn't quite managed to provide the peace of mind that people move to the suburbs for. The combination of concerning crime rates and subpar schools is a 1-2 punch that lands Avondale a spot on our list of places to avoid. Our next location isn't a separate city, but a massive neighborhood within the city of Phoenix itself. This is Maryvale. Located in the western part of Phoenix, Maryvale was developed in the 1950s as one of America's first master-planned communities. It was designed to be a suburban paradise for middle-class families. But over the decades, the dream has soured. Today, Maryvale is often cited as one of Phoenix's most troubled areas, synonymous with high crime and deep-seated poverty. The single biggest issue facing Maryvale is crime. The area consistently has one of the highest concentrations of crime in the entire Phoenix metropolitan area. Gang activity, drug trafficking, and violent crime are persistent and serious problems. The sound of police sirens is a common feature of the neighborhood soundscape. This level of crime creates an environment of fear and has led to a significant decline in property values and a mass exodus of anyone who can afford to leave, creating a cycle of decline. This crime epidemic is fueled by and contributes to extreme poverty. Maryvale has one of the highest poverty rates in the city. Many residents are trapped in a cycle of low-wage jobs, substandard housing, and limited opportunities. The original modest homes from the 1950s have, in many cases, fallen into disrepair, and the area is plagued by blight. The neighborhood has been largely neglected by both public and private investment for decades, leaving it to fend for itself against overwhelming social and economic forces. It's a tragic story of urban decay. What was once a symbol of the post-war American dream has become a cautionary tale. The community is filled with hardworking families who are just trying to get by, but they are fighting an uphill battle against decades of neglect and systemic problems. The city of Phoenix has made efforts to revitalize the area, but the challenges are immense. Because of its reputation for and reality of high crime and entrenched poverty, the neighborhood of Maryvale is a place many people actively seek to avoid. Squeezed between the much larger and more affluent cities of Tempe and Phoenix is the tiny 1-square-mile town of Guadalupe. It's a place with a unique and rich cultural heritage, founded by and predominantly home to Pascua Yaqui Native Americans and Mexican Americans. The town fiercely protects its culture and independence. However, this independence has come at a tremendous cost, isolating it and creating a pocket of profound poverty surrounded by a sea of wealth. The most defining characteristic of Guadalupe is its poverty. The town has one of the lowest median household incomes and one of the highest poverty rates in the entire state of Arizona. The economic disparity is honestly visually shocking. You can be in a trendy, expensive part of Tempe, drive just a few blocks, and suddenly find yourself in a community where many homes are in disrepair and the infrastructure is visibly crumbling. It's one of the starkest examples of the gap between the haves and the have-nots in the state. This deep-seated poverty means the town has a very small tax base, which leads to a critical lack of services. The town struggles to fund basic necessities. Public services that residents of neighboring cities take for granted are limited or even non-existent in Guadalupe. The school system is under-resourced, healthcare options within the town are few, and opportunities for recreation are, honestly, minimal. This lack of investment just perpetuates the cycle of poverty, making it incredibly difficult for the next generation to escape. While the cultural identity of Guadalupe is strong and something to be respected, the economic reality is harsh. The town's isolation, both politically and economically, has prevented it from sharing in the prosperity of its neighbors. It's a community left behind. While it may be rich in culture, it is poor in almost every other metric used to measure quality of life. This overwhelming and concentrated poverty is why the town of Guadalupe, despite its strong identity, finds itself on this list. We head back to the west side of Phoenix to a city called Tolleson. This is not a place you'll find on any tourist maps. Tolleson's identity is almost entirely industrial. It's a city of warehouses, distribution centers, and food processing plants. Massive semi-trucks rumble through the streets at all hours of the day and night. While this industrial base provides jobs, it also creates a living environment that, honestly, many people find deeply undesirable. The main issue with living in Tolleson is the complete lack of balance. It's a place of work, not a place of life. The landscape is dominated by concrete and steel. The air quality is often poor due to the heavy truck traffic and industrial emissions. The noise pollution from the freeways and the 24/7 industrial operations is constant. There are very few parks, green spaces, or recreational amenities. The city was built for logistics, not for families to thrive in. Because the focus is so heavily on industry, there's a severe lack of amenities for residents. Your shopping options are limited to a few basic stores. If you want to go to a nice restaurant, see a movie, or visit a mall, you have to leave Tolleson and drive to one of the neighboring suburbs. The city feels less like a community and more like a massive industrial park that happens to have some residential streets mixed in. It lacks the charm, comfort, and sense of place that people look for in a hometown. So, while Tolleson is a critical hub for the Phoenix economy, and a lot of people commute there for work, choosing to live there is a different story. The trade-off for more affordable housing is living in an environment that can feel bleak, noisy, and polluted. It's the backyard of the Phoenix metro area, the place where all the unglamorous but necessary work gets done. But that doesn't make it a pleasant place to call home. For its overwhelmingly industrial nature and lack of residential amenities, Tolleson makes our list. For our final town, we travel to one of the most visually stunning locations in the entire state. This is Page, in far northern Arizona. It's perched on a mesa overlooking the magnificent Lake Powell, and it's the gateway to world-famous attractions like Horseshoe Bend and Antelope Canyon. Millions of tourists flock here every year. It seems like an absolute paradise. But for the people who live there year-round, the beauty of the landscape can feel like the walls of a beautiful prison due to its extreme isolation and limited opportunities. Page is, without a doubt, one of the most isolated towns of its size in the country. It was literally created in the middle of nowhere in the 1950s to house workers building the Glen Canyon Dam. The nearest city of any significant size is Flagstaff, a 2.5-hour drive away through remote territory. This isolation affects every aspect of life. Getting specialized medical care, doing major shopping, or catching a flight requires a major expedition. This remoteness can be incredibly taxing and expensive for residents. The economy in Page is almost entirely dependent on tourism and the power plant. This creates a very fragile, two-tiered economic system. There are low-wage, seasonal jobs in the tourism sector and a limited number of high-paying jobs at the power plant. There's very little in between. This lack of a diverse job market means that for many, especially young people, there is no path for career advancement. You either work in tourism, get one of the coveted power plant jobs, or you leave. So you have this strange paradox. You are living in one of the most beautiful places on Earth, but you're cut off from the rest of the world. The cost of living is high because everything has to be trucked in from far away, but the wages for most jobs are low. The tourists come and go, enjoying the beauty for a few days while the residents are left to deal with the realities of isolation and a limited future. It's a classic example of how a beautiful view doesn't necessarily translate to a beautiful life, and for that reason, the isolated town of Page is the final entry on our list. There you have it, the 15 towns in Arizona you might want to think twice about before moving. From the isolated beauty of Page to the urban struggles of Maryvale, each of these places faces its own unique and difficult set of challenges. We've seen how issues like crime, poverty, unemployment, and a lack of resources can cast a long shadow, even in a place as sunny as the Grand Canyon State. This isn't the picture you see in the travel magazines, but it's a reality for thousands of people who call these towns home. It's important to remember that data and statistics only tell part of the story. Every one of these towns has good, hardworking people who are proud of their communities and are fighting to make them better. Our goal today wasn't to condemn these places, but to give you a full, unvarnished picture if you're considering a move. Making an informed decision is the most important step you can take. Did your town make the list, or do you have experience with one of the places we mentioned? We genuinely want to hear your story. Let us know in the comments. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the tougher side of Arizona. If you found this video eye-opening and want to see more lists like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We have a lot more strange, dark, and mysterious stories to share from all corners of the map. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more eye-opening lists.